Hi, everybody. This is Ryan with Rigs of Death Metal. My guest today is Alex of Immolation. Alex, how you doing, man?
Good, man.
All right. And Alex, we're just gonna dive right into your live rig. What are you running at this current moment?
Now currently I'm using the EVH heads, 100 watts, EVH cab, and pretty much Shure wireless. For solos, sometimes I'll just use like the Kirk Hammett wah for songs that I do a solo on. And ESP guitars, of course. For the most part, I use ESP Flying V-shape models, but I also do use Eclipses, Horizons, Mavericks, which I have on my old Mavericks. Sometimes pull that out. Yeah, and Fishman pickups.
Awesome. And pretty much all V30 loaded cabs, right? I think,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
hmm
Awesome. And let me see here. And I believe yeah, you've been in the band since 2016.
hmm
This is your Acts of God makes your second record with the band.
hmm
And you got introduced to the Immolation guys at what point?
We've known each other since 1988. So my band, my old original band, Agoraphobia, Immolation, we were two of the first death metal bands in our area. So, instantly became friends. Bob and Ross, two of my best friends for 30 something years. And yeah, so fast forward, here I am, 2000. I joined the band in 2016. When I got offered to join the band, it was kind of a no brainer, so it was kind of
Sure.
like, hey, I get to play with my buddies, and I love the music. Bob as a guitar player, very similar player as me, so that was very easy. Transition as well. As a guitar team, we write very similar influences. Yeah. So no brainer.
Right. When it comes to like your tone inspiration, would you say it kind of comes from your musical influence as well? Like,
Well,
so and so
yeah,
has such a
definitely.
sick tone kind of thing.
As far as tone goes, I mean, there's a lot of different influences there. I kind of have an idea. I'm still tone searching after all these years, still trying to find that perfect tone. But some of the guys, I guess, guitar players, Eddie Van Halen, Michael Schenker, Uli Roth, Dave Murray, Adrian Smith, Tom Warrior from Celtic Frost, Tony Iommi. Those are some of the guys, some of my favorite guitar tones. James Hetfield, of course. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, I mean, as far as tone goes, I mean, that's a constant journey. I've
Sure.
been playing guitar since 1985, 86, something like that. So, it's been a long time,
Yeah.
and I think that's just the same with just not just tone or gear or, it's just like writing music, it's a constant evolution, and you're constantly trying to outdo yourself and what you did prior, and constantly trying to get better, and that's never stopped, but
Yeah.
yeah, but tone is that's an interesting thing, it's just constantly tone chasing, after
Sure.
all these years,
And also just trying to sonically kind of find your place in the band. It's not like it's an interesting thing how you kind of tone chase when you're just at home by yourself or writing by yourself versus when you actually have a band and there is a sound that you have to kind of literally within the frequency range find your place in kind of thing.
sure. I mean, uh over time, the longer whatever you're doing in life, I think over time you kind of dial in and figure out how to find what you're looking for, or how to do things in easier, the more experience you have with things. And for me, it's just about that I realize is a great tube amp. uh, quality instrument and fingers. Eddie Van Halen said this himself. And that's it's in the hands for the most part. As far as, and I think that's more important than just being the most technical or whatever guitar player. Like when you can identify somebody when you hear them and you know who that is. It's like if you hear Tony Iommi, it's Tony Iommi. There's only one guy that sounds like that, or James Hetfield, or Gary Holt, or whatever. Any of these guys. Um, Michael Schenker, or whoever. So um, I don't know if that answers your question, but
No, absolutely. Um, what goals do you think you have for yourself, both or musical goals, both personally and then within the context of the band?
um, it just for me is just more than anything is just to become a better songwriter. Because trying to you know trying to create that perfect record. Whether it's a Master of Puppets or Dark Side of the Moon or whatever. Trying to make, and I don't think any of us have achieved that yet. We're still trying to, you know. I've never been a guy I love players like Yngwie Malmsteen and things like that, but I've never been that concerned with that. For me, it's about the riffs and songwriting. That's more important than being the fastest guy on the block or whatever. Um, and I'm a lead player, but for me, the most important thing is the riffs, the rhythm playing. Um, but yeah, just trying to make that record that I've been trying to make for 30 something years, and we're still trying, trying like, Acts of God, I would say is, I can speak for all four of us. That is our favorite Immolation record. I think we all think it's our best. Um, for us at least. Everybody has their own opinion. And of course, when you get into anybody that gets in any kind of band, they come in later. Sometimes it's one of the later records. That's their first experience with the band is their favorite or whatever. But for us, artistically, this is the best record, that the band has made. But yeah, like we're just constantly pushing forward, trying to get better, even at our age, to continue to get better. And and I think we're all more enthusiastic about the music more than ever.
Hell yeah.
So
What what would you say has, and I guess this is kind of rearing it back to the context of gear or technique or any of that world. What do you what have you found has worked for you, and what is it that you're searching for? Whether that's literally just new wireless pack, or whether it's trying to adjust your technique for certain parts of songs.
well, I think, as far as is using the gear that is going to make it easiest for you to be able to express yourself and talk, with your instrument. Um, for me, I've played a lot of different guitars. I own a lot of different guitar companies, but for me, ESP guitars, they enable me to speak the way I want to speak, if that makes any sense. And it's the
Absolutely.
same thing with a guitar head, like EVH. I recently got turned on a few years ago and started using them, and the combination of the ESPs and the EVH is kind of like what I've had in my head, and also enables me to express myself the best I can as a player. You know, and as well as pickups, Fishman pickups. They're very articulate. I've been looking for a pickup that had the articulation and the diversity of a passive pickup, but with the power of a active pickup. And for me, Fishman is kind of that hybrid of those two worlds. And I like a pickup that's really diverse. Not just for heavy extreme stuff, but for more rock or clean guitar tones and things like that. So I want to be able to have something where I'm not just I can do anything with it, if
Sure.
that makes any sense too, because there's a lot more to me than just metal, it's there's a lot of other music to explore besides that as well. So
Right. Which is a little funny, considering you always have the most metal shapes when you're on stage.
well, I mean, I love, like, for me, the flying V was something that I fell in love with as a kid. I got was probably first seeing Michael Schenker with the V, but my first Judas Priest record was Unleashed in the East. So on the and that's my favorite, still my favorite Judas Priest album, which is a live record from the Hellbent for Leather tour. Um, but the cover has KK Downing with that V, and I just saw that, and I was like, wow, look at that, and then guys like Wolf Hoffman from Accept, and Randy Rhoads, of course, and yeah, I just thought it was like the coolest looking guitar I ever seen,
Oh, absolutely.
and I think it's the heavy metal guitar, I think
Sure.
you know, and it's actually, a lot of people think it's a weird shape, but for me, it's a very comfortable shape. You can sit down with it, it's easy to maneuver live and things like that, so yeah, that would be, you know for me, it's a super comfortable guitar as well.
Kind of on that note, have you got to watch the Flying V documentary yet?
No, I'd like to see that though.
It's I think you can watch most of it, if not all of it, on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
They just have, I believe, even Michael Schenker and Wolf Hoffman on there.
Oh, nice.
Um, oh, they have Andy LaRock.
Oh, nice.
Um,
Great,
uh,
great
yeah,
player.
just lots of classic heavy metal guitar players. Um, just even Andy Sneap.
Oh,
Um,
okay, cool.
and just dishing about what's the Flying V, just the
Yeah, yeah.
classic shape.
Well, it also has a unique sound to it too, I think. It's it kind of it's for me, it's kind of like a mix of like the fatness of a Les Paul, but like the how a Strat can kind of cut through, like a Stratocaster. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like that hybrid, it's a very articulate guitar, I mean, if you go back and listen to the UFO records of Michael Schenker, he has that kind of certain tone, which is, for the most part in his fingers, but I think it also is that V shape that has, it's kind of its own sound to it. And, if you listen to the early Metallica records too, James Hetfield, playing, which wasn't even a Gibson V, which was a copy, actually. A lot of people don't know that. But yeah, there's a unique sound to those, Wolf Hoffman, another guy,
Oh
it's
yeah.
like, so yeah, it's got its own sound, and and it makes you play different. I think, you know, I'm a big guitar nerd, and I like different instruments, and I think there's different songs and different guitars. They make you play differently, they make you write differently. So you pick up the V, you may play a certain way, pick up like a more LP shaped guitar, you're gonna play differently or write differently. And so I think that's cool too, to have like an arsenal of different weapons that are going to be able to enable you to write different songs, that makes any sense.
Absolutely. Immolation, of course, has you know been a nonstop touring machine for a long time, and being one of the old schools, uh, pretty much has played with every big band in the scene. Is there any, uh, obviously, just being it since 2016, or maybe some that you haven't got to tour with? Are there any bigger bands in the scene that you'd personally like to go out and tour with, or maybe any newer bands that's on your radar that you'd like to take out on tour with you guys?
I, you know, as far as in the extreme world, we pretty much toured with everybody. For me, once you've been on the road for so long, it's just kind of like been there, done that. It just becomes something normal to you. But
Sure.
you know, if I was to get excited about something, it would be like opening for, a Metallica or Iron Maiden or something like that. We've been at the same festivals with them, but never touring. So that would be
Right.
something cool. Um, but yeah, I'm trying to think as far as in our genre, um, that we haven't toured with. Hmm, that's a good question. I don't know. I'd love to tour with like, well, not really death metal, but like Voivod or somebody like that. Voivod's a big inspiration on us, and we know the guys a little bit, and great guys, and that would be cool. Something like that.
I could see that. I don't feel like that's too far out of the realms of possibility.
Yeah, yeah. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah,
So,
killer. Um, let me see here. Well, what would you say are your top four? It's just normally top four death metal records, but we can kind of broaden it to top four records.
death. Well, if you want, I could say death metal. Top four records would be a hard question overall,
Sure, sure.
and those records would be more '70s bands probably, and maybe some of the early new wave British heavy metal stuff. But as far as death metal, I'll say Possessed, Seven Churches, Necrophagia, Season of the Dead, uh, Sepultura, Morbid Visions, and Morbid Angel, Abominations of Desolation, which was actually their first record. It just was never released. It was recorded in 1986. Um, so yeah, I would say, oh, Death Scream Bloody Gore, if you want to throw five in there. That's another one.
Sure, killer.
Um, and that's pretty much like the beginning of death metal. Those records were, for I could speak for myself. Any of the guys from back then, those are probably the records that inspired a lot of us.
Oh yeah. Um, being a Morbid Visions fan, have you checked out the band Troops of Doom yet?
No, I haven't. I've heard about it. That's Gyro's band.
Mm-hmm.
I got to check that out. But I tell you what, I do like is the re-recordings that the Cavaleras did.
They're pretty sick.
Yeah, really, really done well. I know some of the guys are like, I don't so clean and this and that, and I think it's fantastic. And we actually got to a few years back, we got to we covered Morbid Visions,
Oh, nice.
recording of that, and Max did the vocals on it. And it's funny because I did the guitar solo at the end of it on the cover version that we did. And when I listened to the new version of the
Mhm.
Cavaliers, it looks like they copied my solo, which I
Really?
think that as a compliment. I think that's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
So, but yeah, I like I really like the new re-recordings of those records because those are the first two Sepultura records were a big influence on us and a lot of the other younger early death metal bands at the time, us and some of the Swedish guys and stuff. We could all agree on that, without a
Yeah.
doubt.
Did you get a chance to catch the Cavalera tour where they were playing Arise in its entirety?
Yes, I did. Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
great. Yeah,
killer.
yeah. We got to tour with them about 7 years ago or something, and
Nice.
that was awesome. And I've known those guys for met them way back in
Sure.
'89 when they first came to the States.
That's awesome.
And they're great people, awesome people.
Hell yeah.
So
Well, we'll kind of try to wrap this up here. Is there any new gear that you're eyeing? I know we were talking before the recording about you know, some of the newer EVH amps and stuff.
yeah, I want to try that. Check out the EVH EL34. So that's kind of on my bucket list. I'm thinking of just maybe trying to get like a 50 watt or something like that and
Sure.
figure it out. 50 watt heads sound fantastic too. So they kind of have their own unique sound compared to the 100 watt
Oh,
heads.
sure.
Um, so I would say that. Let's see here. I mean, there's always something new ESP's putting out that I'm eyeing up. And, oh man, so and I don't overstep my boundaries with the company. I'm grateful that they take care of me and to the best. It's like a very family oriented company, and but yeah, there's always something new. My rep Tony will like, oh, wait to see what we got coming out, and I'm like, oh boy, But yeah, it's always exciting, and I don't see that with too many guitar companies. They usually just put out the same old shit, and ESPs, I think, is kind of like how I see writing music or whatever. They're always trying to look forward, push forward as a company, and
Yeah.
try to be better at making their instruments, and try to do different things, and that's exciting, and I think that's awesome. So yeah, there's definitely some new ESPs that I've seen recently, and I'm like, I think I need to get one of those.
Oh yeah.
So,
I one of my main guitars since like 2011, 2012 has been an Eclipse, and I
oh
absolutely
yeah,
I love that thing.
yeah, I got a bunch of them. I love them. That's probably the guitar I play the most at home. Is the
Sure.
Eclipse, and recording with, and yeah, they're just and the tone out of those guitars too are just phenomenal.
And
So it's kind of
they're a lot
like
more. Oh,
I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
oh no, 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 go ahead.
Uh, so like the thinner body ones, which I
Hmm.
have the full thickness ones as well, but the thinner body is kind of like a hybrid of like a SG meets a Les Paul, kind of thing,
Sure.
you know. And which is cool. The thinner one's a little bit lighter, obviously. I have a lot of nerve issues and things like that, so definitely makes life a lot easier on the
No doubt.
shoulders as well. But yeah, the Eclipses are great, but I love the Horizons too. Great guitars, and yeah, I mean everything they make is phenomenal. So that's cool. Another Eclipse guy, you know.
Oh yeah, dude. I love mine. I've got like the satin black and gold one, and I've got
Oh, yeah.
the gold EMG Hetfields in it.
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
I used to use EMG, and I one pickup I liked a lot that's kind of similar, I think, to the Hetfield one is a 5766 set. I don't know if you've tried
yeah.
that one. It's kind of got that passive mix in with the gain kind of
Right.
gain kind of tone. I think that's what the Hetfields are kind of like too. It's kind of like that hybrid thing a little bit.
Yeah. I actually have my buddy's Eclipse here with me too. He had me install the coil tap
Uh,
5766 set in his guitar.
yeah, yeah.
So I got to kind of A/B them. The Hetfields have so much freaking gain in them.
Right, right.
But in the 5766, the tone is similar, just one, the Hetfields just have so much more gain. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
sure that's what James probably wanted. He's like, yeah, these are cool. Can you make them hotter?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's fun. I like hot pickups, but
Hmm.
to be honest with you, over the years, like I could speak for Bob as well. Like we actually gain on the amp gets lower and lower. It's not as
Yeah,
much, we don't use that much gain, because you kind of when you got so much gain, it's just like you lose articulation, and I think that's same, if you listen to like Master of Puppets or something like that,
hmm,
it's really not that gainy, at least on the amps they're probably using. I could be wrong, but it's hard articulate. You got to really dig in,
sure,
um, because how much gain do you need after a
right,
while? you
right.
know,
It's
it
and
depends on what you're doing though, too. So I
sure,
mean, if you're like
sure,
obituary or something like that, where it's just like bar
wall
chords,
sound,
single notes, yeah, it's you can get away with that. So
sure. I have honestly thought about swapping out the Hetfields for the 57 set, and
mhm.
because everything I'm doing now is like gear demos and like videos and stuff. So
Right.
all here home studio type stuff, and everything is either profiles or preamps or pedals. And there's so much gain already. I don't really need any more. I just need everything as clear as possible.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But
And like, even Eddie Van Halen back in the day, the guy's just going straight into the to his
Yep.
amp, and there's no distortion pedal or anything like that. And listen to that guitar tone; it's ridiculous. It's like I remember as a kid hearing the first Van Halen record. That just was like mind blowing. Like, what the fuck is this? I mean, let alone you never heard a guy play guitar like that, but you never heard a guitar tone like that as well.
Sure.
And but yeah, but it was, like I said, it depends on what you're doing. Like Smashing Pumpkins or something like that. Billy Corgan's probably got like massive amounts of gain on the heavy stuff he's doing or whatever,
Yeah.
But it's all this, it's like bar chords or
Sure.
Frost or something like that.
Yeah. I think his main sounds even, or at least it was like a fuzz pedal. So it's
Yeah,
even
I think so. Yeah,
so that's
yeah,
even more just wall of sound, and that's
yeah.
worse for that.
I read somewhere that I think it was on the second Pumpkins record that there's like fucking 20 guitar tracks on there or some shit like that. It's like insane.
Damn.
you know.
Like
But that
wow.
was back in those days when you just think you got to do like 10 guitar tracks or whatever to
Yeah.
a fatter sound or whatever.
Sure. I've heard some crazy stuff like multiple tracks of just ever increasing layering distortion kind of thing just to
Yeah.
try to
It
get
depends
more.
on what you're going for. And there's no real formula. There's no right or wrong way of anything. It's just
Yeah,
at the end of the day, it's just whatever works for you, to get the point across. So
sure. I my current favorite trick for mixing is having a very distinct, traditional kind of like metal rhythm tone. It's very articulate, very tight, and then having another track blending in something gross like an HM2 or just like the old DoD death metal pedal or just something
oh
grimy and
yeah.
gross, just a layer underneath it. Just to
Yeah, yeah. I actually recently, because I'm not a distortion pedal guy, because I'm
sure.
into the head. But back in the '80s, of course, I used distortion pedals, and I went out and I ordered the Boss Overdrive, which I used to have, and I got the Boss distortion, just the orange distortion,
Yeah,
just to have, I was just check it out, plug it in for some solos or whatever. But it's fine for solos for me, but for
sure.
rhythms, like a tube screener was great for guitar solos, I
Hmm.
think. But all that other stuff just kind of gets in the way for me, at least.
Yeah. I've had good luck with the Boss DS1 as literally like an effect kind of thing. Like I guess Grave, when all the Swedish bands are doing the HM2, Grave kind of used the DS1, but they cranked it to kind of it was still sort of a chainsaw sound,
Hmm.
but just like a spongier kind of
You
just
know,
different.
it's funny how all these years later I started to hear these stories about the HM2 guitar sound and all. And I know some of those guys from the early Swedish death metal scene, and I'm pretty sure, like for instance, like Entombed, like Ufa was just a plain distortion pedal into a PV combo amp, and that's
Yeah.
what it is. But everybody's like HM2, and so I think that's a myth.
Yeah.
It's just blown up.
It
Remember
certainly has
may
blown
use
up.
that. I don't know. But
It is definitely blown up for sure.
yeah, yeah.
There are more HM2 clones out there than probably the originals now, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, it's just funny because they have so many genres now. I'm like, holy shit, HM2 sound or HM2 band. I'm like, what is that?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh kind of throwing it back to which I mean I've got a handful here. Pretty much all of which that some companies have been nice enough to send out and stuff.
Hmm.
Um hang on, let me clear this little notification here. Uh uh the newest one I got is like the Dun Effect Death Knob. Have you seen that one?
No, no.
It's literally just the EQ section of the HM2, and it's like one knob, and you can just kind of blend it into your amp tone.
Oh, wow.
So like 100% amp gain,
Uh-huh.
and you can like run in the effects loop or something, and it's just
Uh-huh.
like how much you want to blend in, so you can kind of get your articulation and the grime kind of however much of it you want.
Well, that kind of it sounds like I have the EVH Stealth, and then when you go on the red channel, there's just like ridiculous amounts of gain on there.
Yeah,
But the thing is that's strange about it, it's so damn articulate, um, compared to the first EVH amp, there's something weird about that, where you can get all that gain and articulation at the same time, which I
yeah.
find kind of bizarre.
It's almost like that Ingle thing where it's a lot of gain, but it's like very compressed and almost I hate to use the word sterile or cold, but I don't know a better way to describe it.
Yeah, yeah,
Not
yeah.
in a bad way, but it's
Is that
like
the Richie Blackmore angle, or is that the I would say it's the other one's real high gain angle amp? I'm trying to think of. Oh, I can't think right now. But
uh, a lot of the Ingles are like that, just super high gain and very, very compressed, very articulate. Like
yeah,
that's
yeah.
I just kind of associate that with Ingle in general.
Hmm.
Which I mean, they're all crazy versatile, like the really spanky, clean, compressed, almost kind of chimey cleans.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and then the gain is just as, compressed and articulate.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
But
there's so much stuff nowadays. Like, when I was a kid in the 80s, you really had to work for shit,
yeah,
to get a sound, like that. I even, like Judas Priest had a great guitar tones, and I know they had to do a lot of work to get some of those guitar tones and some of those earlier records and all. And nowadays, there's just so much shit out there. It's crazy. It's like because you had to mod your amps back then too. It's like to get that extra gain.
oh yeah.
And now it's just crazy all the shit that's out there. It's pretty
Sure.
insane.
I there like I don't know, a year or two ago, I was deep diving on the old Iron Maiden records and stuff, like their recording setups. Then I
Hmm.
saw like a more recent rig rundown where they're all on like Axe effects and stuff, like all digital. I'm like,
Right.
wow, that's
Yeah.
it's like I don't
Yeah.
blame them in the slightest because I get the convenience factor, but man, that's so much less interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I found out Metallica the same thing now.
Yeah,
You know, And I mean, I guess it makes things a lot easier because, you know, amps, tube amps and all, it's just wear and tear on the road. It's just like guitar, you have your guitars going through, flying in and out all the time, and neck's going to bow, the weather and all that kind of shit. And it's just going to fuck with stuff. But in the end of the day, I think, nothing beats the fucking tube amp.
yeah,
But I even went through that phase in the 90s when they started to make all the rack mount stuff, and
oh yeah,
I got into that, like the Digitech, and it was like the first thing was like Digitech 21 Legend, which is totally, it's like an antique now, but at the time it was
yeah,
just like, holy shit. And Rocktron, and I had all that stuff, and then I went back to good old tube amps, because I was just using, a power amplifier with the rack mounts, the digital effects and stuff like that, and which is cool. It's cool to fiddle around with. But like I said, for me, it's nothing like the power and intensity of a tube amplifier.
sure.
But in the
Uh,
end of the day, it's preference. It really
right,
is.
right,
No right or wrong in anything. It's just whatever works for you.
sure. It's funny just because it's kind of similar to what I've got set up now. Like I've got one of the older the I think BK Butler made it, the Moss valve power amps.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
had lost.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean it's cool. I like it a lot better than the Kemper's built-in power amp.
Yeah, yeah,
It adds a little bit of character to it, and running it through because I got the full stack cabs behind me.
yeah, yeah,
It makes a big difference versus just sitting here in front of like my computer monitors or whatever. but
Yeah, I'm curious about the Kempers and all that. I just don't have the patience for that kind of shit. I'd have to have
I
a
get
tech
it.
that's got to have to dial that all in because and one thing I love about the EVH is it's just so simple to dial in anything,
They are.
and simpler the better for me.
Sure.
So, but yeah, I mean, yeah, it's definitely interesting though.
Yeah.
One of these days I'll get around to checking out that stuff.
Sure. I'm I'm talking with a couple companies to get some tube gear back into my studio anyway, but
Yeah,
because
yeah.
yeah, you can't beat it. Even just some tube preamps for recording and stuff.
Sure.
Just to have that around.
Yeah, and if it's
Um,
staying in your house and
oh yeah. Yeah.
it's fine. You don't have to
Sure.
take it anywhere. So because anytime you're on tour, anything gets moved a little bit, slightest bit, it's just
Sure.
everything changes everything.
Yeah. And kind of like how we were talking before, once you start, you're playing somebody's living room or VFW hall or, a little
Yeah,
dive. The last thing you want to do is take anything expensive with you.
sure. I mean, I'll sometimes I'll take like the LTD models and stuff because I don't want to get any of my more high end guitars damaged. But yeah, the LTDs are fantastic.
Oh
They're
yeah.
great guitars. But it's funny, like I did a tour last year with Carcass, and Bill Steer plays these old, I think they're like 63s or I don't know, or 61. I don't know. I can't remember what he told me.
Juniors.
They're melody makers.
Oh, melody makers. Okay.
Yeah. So he's got, the pickups that were in there were P60s, not P90s, or P60s originally. So he routed them out. He's got humbuckers in there.
Hmm.
But I told him, I said, man, don't you get paranoid that, you're bringing these two, vintage guitars out, that something's going to happen. And he's like, yeah, but guitars are meant to be played. And I was like, okay,
Sure.
you know.
Right.
So, and fucking guitarist, his tone is pretty amazing. He uses the
Oh yeah.
EVHs as well. It's like he's got one of the best guitar tones I think out there, and best players. He's probably my favorite as far as extreme metal. He's probably my favorite guitar player out of those guys. He's got that 70s early heavy metal kind of influence mixed in with
Definitely.
death metal, which is really cool.
Which I
Very
I love
tasteful
that.
player. Yeah. Yeah. But
Well,
yeah, guitars are meant to be played. So
couldn't agree more.
yeah.
And yeah, I think that'd be a good point to kind of wrap this up on. But Alex, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to do this, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I enjoy talking about guitars. I get bored talking about the early death metal scene and all that kind of stuff, and it's cool just to talk about guitars. And if I like to plug real quick, I'm actually going to do a podcast with my guitar tech. Um, so we're actually going to do something too, so we can just nerd out and talk about guitars and all
Killer.
nerdy stuff like me and you talk about. So be cool.
Sounds awesome, man. I can't wait to check it out. Can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Should be cool. It's a lot of
Um,
fun.
will that be available like YouTube or
Yeah, we're gonna do like a YouTube channel. So it's in the works. So hopefully by the end of the year, you know, get some of my fellow guitar friends and musicians to on the show, and we'll do some stuff on my friend Roger that works on my guitars, and you know, doing setups, and he makes his own pickups, he wires his own pickups, and all kinds of cool stuff. So all nerdy stuff.
hell yeah.
So
Well, send it my way. I'll be sure to share it, man.
yeah,
But
yeah. Thank you, man.
thanks again so much for coming in, man. And everybody, go listen to Immolation and keep your eyes peeled for what Alex has coming out.
Cool. Thank you, man.
Awesome. Have a good one,
All right.
man.
Cheers.